Friends, let's begin with the Manchester City player ratings. At the goalkeeper and defense, we have the incredible Ederson, who gets a solid 8 on 10. Had nothing to do in the first half, but will be disappointed to be beaten by Garnacho's low strike for the opener. Made a great save to keep out Sancho's spot kick in the shootout, and then took one himself, leaving Onana with no chance. Up next, Rico Lewis scores a 6 on 10. Gave Rashford acres of space for one big chance in the first half, but looked threatening when driving forward. Unfortunately for him, those bursts didn't lead to anything meaningful. Manuel Akanji gets a 7 on 10. A strange afternoon for Akanji and Diaz, in that they didn't have a number 9 to mark. Scored the winning penalty in the shootout to put his name up in lights. Ruben Diaz scores a 6 on 10. Heroically stuck his head in the way of a Fernandes rocket in the first half, but was caught out a couple of times in the second period, as the Portuguese drifted and pulled strings from the number 10 area. Slotted his penalty home in the shootout to help City win the trophy. Josko Gvardiol gets a 5 on 10. Had a tough afternoon against the threat of Ahmad and then Garnacho, caught out of position as the Argentine found himself in space to score the opening goal. Moving on to the midfield, Nico O'Reilly scores a 5 on 10. Didn't quite work out for him on his senior debut. Some positive runs forward, but ultimately couldn't put his stamp on the game. Will be more chances for him in the future, no doubt. We give Mateo Kovacic a 7 on 10. Deployed in the Rodri role, and although he may not be as effective as the Spanish juggernaut, he had a decent enough game and won possession more than anyone else on the pitch. James McAtee gets a 5 on 10. Clipped the post in the first half, but similar to O'Reilly, failed to really influence the game before he was replaced by Bernardo Silva. Moving on to the attack line, we give Jeremy Doku a 5 on 10. Hammered a shot just wide late on in the first half, but that was about it. Showed flashes of his quality, but, as we've seen so often with Doku, the end product was lacking. Erling Haaland scores a 4 on 10. Anonymous. A big reason for that was the lack of service into him, but he'll be disappointed that he couldn't have more of an impact on the game, with the City striker having just 17 touches of the ball. Did at least convert his penalty to help his side get over the line. Oscar Bob gets a 7 on 10. Looked the most likely to make something happen in the first half, and although he faded in the second, as United got more of a foothold, it was the Norwegian's delightful cross that led to Bernardo's equalizer. Finally, at the substitutions and manager, we have Mateus Nunes, who scores a 5 on 10. Replaced O'Reilly after an hour and was booked almost immediately, then lost possession up the pitch that led to Garnacho's opening goal. Bumped his rating score up by dispatching his penalty into the top corner. Next, Savinho gets a 6 on 10, brought on after 63 minutes, and showed a couple of glimpses of his quality, but United were on the front foot at the time. Confidently slotted his penalty home. We give Bernardo Silva a solid 7 on 10. Came on for the final 10 minutes and the birthday boy changed things in the final moments with a bullet header past Onana to send it to penalties. Will be annoyed he then missed his spot kick in the shootout, but it didn't matter in the end. Kevin De Bruyne gets a 2.5 on 10, introduced in stoppage time to take a penalty and made no mistake, as he slid the ball into the corner. We give Nathan Ake a 1.5 on 10, replaced Gvardiol at left back late on. Pep Guardiola, the manager, gets a solid 7 on 10. It's difficult to grade Guardiola as the Community Shield clearly isn't at the top of his trophy priority list. With that in mind, he gave chances to a few youngsters and fringe players and ultimately will be happy to see his team display character and come out on top after falling behind late on. Hey friends, give the video a like and subscribe if you're enjoying it so far. Let's move on to the red side of Manchester as we dive into the Manchester United player ratings. At the goalkeeper and defense, let's begin with Andre Onana, who gets a 6 on 10. Very comfortable in possession, barely had to make a save. Frustrated Bernardo, but was powerless to stop the other penalties. Up next, Diogo Dalot scores a 6 on 10. Threatened to be exposed by Jeremy Doku's trickery, but steadied himself and defended intelligently. Then we have Harry Maguire, who gets a 5 on 10. Did a decent job looking after Haaland, but did not look fully fit. Johnny Evans scores a 5 on 10. Looks shaky at times, especially when giving the ball away before McCarthy hit the post. Made some good blocks and clearances, but then hit a terrible penalty. Lisandro Martinez gets a 5 on 10. Filled in at left back, displaying his usual control in possession and combative nature. However, he lost Oscar Bob at the crucial moment for the equalizer. Moving up to the midfield, Kobbie Mainoo scores a 6 on 10. Knitted the play together well, although naturally looked a bit rusty, given his short break. Understandably taken off early. Casemiro gets a solid 8 on 10. A pleasant surprise after a concerning pre-season. His passing was spot on and didn't look so vulnerable in the system. We give Bruno Fernandes a sweet 7 on 10. A typically all-action performance. Played some defense splitting, passes, and netted with a wonderful strike, but was offside. Moving up to the attack line, we have Amad Diallo, who scores a 7 on 10. Exciting and daring, responsible for 2 of the best moves of the match, but couldn't find the final pass for the first. Mason Mount gets a 4 on 10. Struggled to make an impact, overcooking passes and not getting in the right attacking positions. Marcus Rashford scores a 5 on 10. Still searching for his former spark, and was frustratingly wasteful in front of goal. Curled wide after good build-up play, and should have buried his 1v1 against Ederson, hitting the post instead. Finally, at the substitutions and manager, Facundo Pellistri gets a 6 on 10. Worked hard in defense, and made a crucial tackle on Kevin De Bruyne in injury time. Toby Collier scores a 6 on 10. Coped well in his first appearance at Wembley, looking calm and composed on the ball. Alejandro Garnacho gets a big 9 on 10. Simply stunning. Put one on a plate for Rashford only for the forward to hit the post. Then jinked inside and expertly tucked home the opener. Scored his spot kick in the shootout too. He nailed it. Scott McTominay scores a 1.5 on 10. Not very effective. Jadon Sancho gets a 2.5 on 10. Replaced Rashford in the 83rd minute, and then was denied by Ederson from the spot after an unwise run-up. We give Erik ten Hag, the manager, a 7 on 10. Will be frustrated not to win, but got his tactics right again against City, and this 4-2-3-1 formation could be a good blueprint in the crunch matches. Manchester City were nowhere near their brilliant best at Wembley for the annual curtain raiser, but even after falling behind to United, with 8 minutes remaining, they still managed to battle back and get their hands on the Community Shield. The last time they won this trophy was back in 2019. The game finally ended in a 1-1 draw and advanced up to the point of penalty kicks, where City beat United 7-6 to lift the FA Community Shield 2024. Big ups to them boys. Hey friends, do you think this was a fair rating? And which player will you rate differently? Drop your comments. Until next time, like and subscribe for more amazing content.